Hello again. So just continuing with this Harrington St Project. Now that we've got the site set up, I want to look at extending these walls up to the uppermost level, and then also putting in the openings and possibly also the some other core or structural elements that we have that extend most of the way through the building. So I'm going to start with the ground floor plan with the image, and you can see here that we've got this area which is a little bit problematic because we have this projection that extends actually underneath the footpath, and so then there's a wall on the other side here that's shown not in line with the grid, and so I'm going to begin by lining that up with the grid line. Even though it may not be like this in reality, it's not worth worrying about too much. So I'm just going to use the align tool there and choose the grid line, and then choose the outside there. It could even be that this drawing was not all that accurate. I'm not sure, because you can see here on the upper level it's actually shown this way. So I'm not sure what's happening there, but it's not really worth worrying about too much. For simplicity's sake, it's definitely much easier to have those walls in line. So this wall here will now be perfectly in line with the wall over on the left. Now, next I'm going to go back into the 3D view, just to give you a good idea what's happening with this projecting wall. So this wall here finishes down below the footpath, and then the entry is above that. So we need to bring that down and then allow for the entry. So I'm going to go into the north elevation, and I'm going to create then what I call an intermediate level. So this is a level for a floor height that's in between our main floor heights. So in between the ground floor and level 1 we'll need another floor height. And looking at the elevation here, you can see it fairly clearly. Okay, so you have here this entry which is below the main floor level of level 1. So I'm going to use the measure tool in AutoCAD and measure from that base, so just from the bottom of that door there, straight down to ground floor level. And we can see that it is 2.83 meters. Okay, so I'm going to use a bit of a trick here in Revit. I'm going to select the ground floor level, and I'm going to copy that. So I'm going to select the base point there, and then just type in 2830, enter. So that's created a new level. Now we might need to fine tune this. Actually, I've just noticed there's a problem there with that ground line. We'll have a look at that in a minute too. Okay, so we've got there the extra level we need, but notice if it's not selected that the arrow there is black, and that tells us that it doesn't have a plan view associated with it. And that is perfectly acceptable because we don't need a plan for every level, and in this case this level is really going to show up just fine in the level 1 floor plan with some adjustments. So we'll take care of that afterwards. So for now I'm just going to select that new level, click on the little break symbol there to bring it down so I can still read that easily, and then I will rename it and we will call it level 1 lower. Alright, so you can see then that the footpath level, this is the main level of the footpath. Don't worry about that line where it comes down there. So this is roughly the height we want. So I'm going to measure from there, let's say about here, we're a little bit below, up to our level. So it's about 600 mil. Right, so that's what we need to know. Going now into 3D view, I'll select these 3 walls, and then change their top constraint to, you guessed it, level 1 lower. And then the top offset will make minus 600. So they're now down below that footpath. So we'll worry about what's above them afterwards. But first I want to fix up that that ground line. You can see that it's showing a bit unusually just because Revit's very accurate, and this building being built a long time ago with some unusual footpath levels would have fairly complex set of levels there. Getting them to show properly in the elevation would require a lot of accurate modelling. In reality you'll probably just draft over the top in 2D, but we want to show something in 3D for this project that looks presentable. So a good thing I can show you there is the option of putting in a floor. So I'm going to go and just quickly put in a floor on level 1. Using pick lines, I'll just pick the edge of the building there. For the rest I'll go to the site plan. So I essentially chose that floor plan to create my my floor to get it at a certain level, and now I'll continue drawing in this site view that has my satellite. Basically tracing over where the footpath needs to go. Now remember, it's almost flat down here, and so we have the stairs somewhere around here. So let's just set it about here, and then back to the building, and then we'll just join those together. So we'll need a new floor at the bottom of the stairs, but actually here I just want to get that line to go past my edge. So that's the edge of my sub-region there. So finish that. Okay, so into the 3D view, and we can see we've got a floating floor. Right, so I'm going to make this a bit thicker, so it's 150 mil. And actually you can just change that to 300 for now. So generic 300 mil. And then I'm going to go to modify Subelements with the floor selected, and that will give me these nice grips on the corner which I can use just to stretch that floor down. So I got the edge there, I don't want that. Let's do that again. So in fact, so I can choose the edge at the top, that is a good one there. So I'm going to choose that edge instead actually, and just again stretch that down. So you can do this by typing in measurements, or you can just do it as I am there by eye. So I'm stretching that down. So I'll do that over here as well. So I'm just going to select that edge, and then again just using the arrows there, stretch it down visually. I should be able to see when it's hitting the site. There we go. Now, probably need to come down a little bit more there, because you can see that this edge really should come across more to line up with where I modelled in the area for the stairs earlier. So I'm going to go to Edit Boundary, and then by selecting that line there, oops, got it there. I can use the left arrow on the keyboard, should bring that across. You just need to orbit a bit to get it to behave. Or the down arrow. Let's see which one it wants. Down arrow this time. Okay, you can even try going to top in your 3D view presets. Might make it a bit easier. There we are. And also dragging there would be just as good. Okay, so we'll try going back to our original northeast position. That looks pretty good. Tick to finish. There we are. Okay, so we need to work out what's happening there. We might need to put a retaining wall or something along that footpath. I'll have a look at Street View and see if we can pick up anything there. Yes, okay. There we are. So you can see there is a retaining wall there. Okay, so we'll need to factor that in as well. For now, I'll leave that as it is, but you can see it's nicely covering that that area and beginning the setup for the footpath. So I'll have a wall along there, and then some nice steps coming down here, which will be a nice feature to show. Alright, so going back to the floor plan, we can now put in a matching wall. So this time I'll go to the level 1 plan with the image. So you can see this here is not showing us the plan clearly under the walls. I'll go to Fine to remove the coarse fill and also Wireframe. Okay, so this wall here is a 510mm wall, and just want to make sure this one here is the same thickness, and it is. So it's important that those walls, if possible, can be extended. So I'm going to go all the way up to, so level 5 it would be. And, no, okay, the wall's finished below that, so here we are, this is the one I want. So, okay, so I'm just going to do a rough measurement there and see we've got a wall there, and yes, that's close enough to 510. Okay, so back to level 1. Okay, so selecting the two walls that we have, either side of that opening area, and now I can go into properties, change the top constraint to level 5, or actually sorry, even better, top of parapet. Might need some adjusting, but that should be close to what it should be. And then now I can draw in a new wall with the same wall type. This time setting the height to top of parapet. And so I'm going to go from the corner there on the left, which should be sitting on the grid line. Oops, I didn't check my location line, so I'm used to it being on exterior. So that location line should be finish face exterior. And again, so from the corner here, and then over to the intersection of the grid line and that wall on the right. So over here we've got this pier wall, which I need to check as well. So I'm going to make sure that one as well goes up to, well for now, we might need to bring this down afterwards, but for now let's take it to top of parapet. We might look at doing that one a bit differently actually, because looking at the other piers, well, you'll see what I mean when I show you. Okay, so it may even extend all the way up, but there's a better way of doing piers than to have an extra wall thickness like this. So I might actually fix that one now to see where the uppermost extent of it is. Okay, so again here you can see as you go through the different floor plans you need to keep changing the view. Yeah, so I had a feeling this would be the case. So you can see there the pier doesn't go all the way through to that level. Okay, so rather than doing it that way, I'm going to delete this one. What we're going to do is treat the piers as separate elements. So I'm going to delete that wall altogether. And it's very important there that this wall is the one that comes across. So this wall here needs to stretch, just using the grip there. I'm going to drag that so it connects to this other one. So I just want to make that really clear what I've done there. So I'm going to the original 3D view. Okay, so we've got this extra wall in between these other two. So these other two walls either side, they start from the lowest level. Then there is a gap between them that needs to be there for the alcove. And so this wall does need to be in between. There's a good way to do it, but we need to have this wall now coming down to a lower level. So I'm going to bring that base constraint. Base constraint still on level 1, but we're going to make that base offset. Let's try minus 1000. Still not enough, so I'll go down a bit further. Oh, sorry, it's not thinking. Okay, so it's actually from level 1 lower, and minus 600. Sorry, is what we used before. So we'll keep it at that. There we are. So that's ready for the opening. These other walls, a bit simpler. You can just extend those up. So I can just select these using Control. Now, I know that the facade is a bit different in some areas along the Harrington Street facade particularly, so I might need to make this different again afterwards, but for now I'll just take that all the way through to parapet. Okay, it's all in. Let's have a look at that. Okay, so this is the section I was talking about where you can see that it's actually on all of the facades there, that the you have these alcoves or recessed bays for the windows, and the piers essentially are flush with these lower level walls which are thicker. Okay, so in fact, why don't we fix that right now? So you can see here this is up to the top of level 1. So that gives us a good idea of the height of the entire building, but as is often the case with these older buildings, the walls are staggered as they go up. So these two facade walls here, and then the other two walls that join to them. Just using Control to select all of those. And I'm going to bring them down to finish at the top of level 1, which is level 2. There we are. Now you can see then that the end walls don't go through to the corner, and they don't really have to, but it's probably easier if they do. So I'll show you how to fix that. Okay, so you can see the problem here. These main walls that are higher than the others, they finish back at the edge of this wall here we want to go through. So modify, go to the wall joins tool. So it's just here in the geometry panel. Clicking there. Then we can go to the intersection of those two walls. It'll highlight or bring up a square around it. And then go to next, which will give you the next option for butt join wall, which is, you should leave it on butt for this one. Okay, so same here. So we can just, again, still with the wall join tool on, and choose the corner there, and then again just go to next. And there we go. Cancel to finish. Okay, so now if we go and have a look at some of these other floor plans, I don't think they've shown the bays all that clearly. In fact, I know they haven't because I've had a look at them. So you can see here that the windows are shown, but they haven't really shown the walls with much accuracy there. So we'll need to work a lot of that out from the photo. But it's an important detail to show. Okay, so you can see there that essentially you have piers with the walls. If we zoom in, obviously being not as thick as the others, it's very difficult to see how many bricks even from the photo here. We can get a better angle. I think it's still going to be difficult. Oh yeah, that's not too bad. So we're looking at more than a brick thickness, but not much more. So let's just make it a nice round number and say 150. Alright, so back to, for example, the level 2 floor plan. We can see there is the main line of the wall. So that we know is 510. And so if we make a new wall type, let's go to draw a new wall. Okay, starting with the 510mm wall, go to edit type, duplicate, and we'll make it 360, which is 150mm less. So just go to edit the structure there, and obviously make that 360. And then the height here we'll set to top of parapet. This time the location line I'll make finish face interior, and I can simply trace over the wall that I already have there. Over to the corner there, and then down. Don't worry about it bringing back the ends there, that actually is to be expected. Okay, so into 3D. And we can see there that we have this setback or stepping in the wall there, which is exactly what we're after. Right, so back into the maybe level 2 plan with the image I'll go to. And as before, change it to fine, change it to wireframe, and we can now see these windows, which should be in pairs. So you can see they're obviously like that over here, and on the other side too, they should be all in pairs. Now with any luck we can again try to use the bricks there as a guide. So we have, let's see, it's a bit hard, but well, we could count bricks there. In fact, actually, I'm sure if you spend the time you could do that. But we also have the windows themselves as a reference. So it's about 100mm. It looks like it's about a brick thickness, which is 110, but let's just say 100. It's much simpler. So I'm going to use reference planes. Maybe firstly to establish the actual window position. Drag that out. So that will be handy later when we actually go to do the windows. But what I'm going to use it for now is the actual walls. So I'm going to copy this using the line of the wall there. So I'm going to just type in 100, and will just be a moment. Okay, so now I'll just repeat that process so that it's clear on the other side. So now what I'm also going to do is try to just keep on top of the measurements as I'm doing this. So here I'll draw a reference plane to establish the other windows, or the other side of the window opening there. Again, just making sure I'm perpendicular to the wall opening there. And then, oops, sorry, if you have trouble selecting the reference plane again, just make sure you use Tab to highlight that. There we are. So I'm just stretching that out. You'll see before long that it's probably easier to copy these. Okay, so I've ended up there with the measurement of 1200, which is good. So I just want to make sure those measurements are, round figures, that you're not just putting in any old measurements there. So I want to make sure this is then symmetrical. So I'm going to use Control along with Tab if I need to select those 3 reference planes, and this time I'll use Mirror Draw Axis in the Modify panel there, and now go down and just visually try to get the midpoint between these 2 windows, and then make sure that axis line is drawn perpendicular to the outside face of the wall. Okay, so you can see that I've gone across a little bit too far, so let's bring that back a bit. Using the arrows on the keyboard should be okay there. Now I'm just going to again check these measurements. So I'm going to select using Tab, and you can see there that I've got a figure that's not really a round number, so I'm going to make it one. So it's well, again, if I was being fussy, I would actually make this in according to a brick chart or brick rods, but we'll just go for round numbers. 450, actually that is anyway. So we've got 450 there, and then over here, remember it was 1200. So I'm just going along and checking all those measurements. So it looks to me like this was not drawn all that accurately, because it doesn't look like these measurements are the same. Often the case with drawings from the past. Okay, there we are. So that's not too bad. We could probably do better though, and what I might do is just check that that is going to work all the way along. So it's 1200, so 2400, and then the 450, so 2850. Let's just measure. Okay, so measuring along here to see if that will work. Yeah, it's a bit bigger, but I think that's okay. Okay, so I've got my openings there, and sorry, it's just freezing up a bit on me, but if I select all of those reference planes now, here I might just make sure my image is pinned. So I've just selected that image and used the pin tool, and now I can select a bit more easily and going to try making a window just to get those reference planes, which is again, here we go, much easier. Alright, so I'm going to then use the copy tool, and set out as best I can the next window opening. Okay, so again we've got to check that distance. It's going to be a round number with any luck, 1290. Yeah, no, but it was come across far too much here because you can see this drawing is just way off. So we'll have to make some changes. So I think the 1200 was good. Maybe let's just try bringing that 450 back to 400. So notice I have to adjust all those measurements to the right. Once we have two bays set out, the rest should just follow on automatically. Okay, so this next one, I might make 1300. I think it just does need to come a bit back to the left if it can. Even though it's not in line with the drawing again. Remember, the drawing's out, we've just got to try and work around that. So here we go, 100 for that. And the opening should then be 1200. See, even with the edge brought back, it's still not big enough. Yep, so really off this drawing. Okay, so 450. And then 1200. And then hopefully this 100. Okay, so now I can select all of these reference planes in the second bay, that is. So let's just zoom out to get that. There we go. 6 reference planes, that's right. So I'm going to use copy. This time I'll tick multiple. Snap to the intersection of the previous reference plane at the end of that previous bay, and then keep going along and click onto the end. So don't worry, we'll go out from the plan, but we know the plan is off. There we go. So let's just have a quick look at the image again and see. Yep, so I mean these would be, maybe they're not actually even, but I'd say they are, actually. So, okay, so let's just measure those ends now, because that's important. So from here to here, that's 12. And then at the other end, something. Alright, so we're going to say it needs to be about 900 at each end, and so that's left us with, let's see what it is here, 1300. Maybe we'll bring those back a bit as well, but we know at least now. If we have a look at the one without the image, should be simpler. Okay, so then to set that out, so back to reference plane, drawing up perpendicular to the wall. So as you might remember from previous exercises, it's really important to have this reference here that's perpendicular to measure from. So I'll move this over to the corner. Okay, and let's just think what else we can do here. So we've got that one, and then we have the windows. So we've got, let's see, so we've got 1, 2, 3 lots of 1300 plus 2 lots of 900. So I might just calculate that. So 1300 it's 5700. So divided by 5 gives us 1140. So let's say that's a good measurement to use. So if I then can bring these across, this will all make sense. If you're not sure what I'm doing, it should be much clearer in a moment. So I'm going to use move, click on the edge of the wall, and then following along the edge there, it was 1300 before, so we're going to come across 160. So that should leave me now with a gap of 1140. Okay, so again, we'll do that over here. So using the move tool, again, snapping to one of the edges of the wall, following along that, just to get the angle, and then typing in 160. Okay, so again, we want that distance there now to be 1140, which you can see it is. So this last one to do now. So again, move, following along that edge. There we go. Okay, now finally, we need to move all of those planes along so that we have that distance between these two as 1140 as well. So it's whatever it is, 1259, that doesn't matter. Okay, so if I put in another reference plane by copying that at the same angle, 1140. Okay, so they all need to come back so that this plane here lines up with that one. So selecting them all with a window, and shift to deselect that one that we want kept there as a reference. Okay, so then move, pick it up here, snap to that new plane. There we go. Okay, as a final check, I can measure this distance now, and with any luck it's going to be close to our 1140/12. Well, it's a bit different, but remember it's going to be wrapping around the corner, so it'll be more than that anyway. And I'm not too worried if it's different visually. I think that'll still work. So that's okay. We'll live with that. Later, if you do have time and you want to make them perfectly even, that's something you could easily do as well. So having done all of that work, now comes the easy part, putting in the piers. So remember we have it was a 160mm gap. Oh, 150. So with the wall tool, finish face interior, that's right. And we don't have any 150 walls, so actually you have to make one. Edit type. edit structure, change thickness to 150. And check that the level is still on to top of parapet. So start with the easier ones first. So over here, tracing along left to right, in between each of those openings we've set out. Okay, and so here we can only go to the corner, and well, if you like, you can come down just a random distance and later on adjust that when you've put in the set out for the bays on the other side. Okay, now this one's a little bit trickier. You just need to make sure the wall joins are right. So going from that endpoint there, going to the endpoint here, you can see that that is not joining correctly. So you can try using the wall joints option on that corner. It might not give you any options. Okay, you can see it's actually not giving me any options there for joining. Look, it's actually, for a student project, not a huge problem, but if you're interested in getting that right, what you can do is select that wall that's on the outside, just bring it back using the grip there away from the corner. I'm going to right click there and go to disallow join as well, just to make sure it doesn't try to join with this other one. So we've got this wall here. And again, I'm going to, while it's selected, find the grip at the end, right click and disallow join. And now I can bring that corner up, and I'm going to use tab there to make sure it snaps to the end point. So you have to be very careful here and make sure it snaps exactly to that point. And it's a bit difficult to see now because of the line weight, so I'm also going to just use show thin lines there so I can see it without any line weights on. Might also set it to fine. And now I'm going to go back to this outer wall. I'm going to change the location line to finish face exterior, which will move the grip over to the outer side. And then I can drag so it snaps exactly onto that endpoint. Okay, so the walls are in the correct configuration there, but they still are not showing joined. With a black hatch you probably won't notice, but to clean that up properly you should use the join tool. And we can now manually just use with join, select each wall and join it to the next. So there we are. Now you might notice that you need to join each of these piers. Again, with black hatch you may not even need to worry, but again, just a good thing to know. We'll leave the other wall for now. Okay, so to get display back to thin line, turn thin lines off. I'll go back to coarse. So let's look at that in 3D. There we go. Now something that would be a nice, very nice thing to have here is the, well, a couple of things actually. We've got the wall there not really working for us, so we better fix that. So back into the ground floor plan. So you can see there why that's happened. It's because this wall is no longer joining correctly. Don't worry about this reference plane, that's connecting setting out something else. So it's just got to go to this corner here, so that just again can be dragged across. And then, now sorry, I won't do that. If it isn't joining correctly before it's dragged, right click on the grip, disallow join. Manually drag it across. Leave the joining off. Back to 3D. Manually use join to connect those two. Okay, and very important that you connect these piers to the wall below. So let's try that again. If you get a message like this, just click OK. Now it's strange, it's telling me they're not connected, but we know they are. It's because, sorry, it's the wall in between I'm selecting. So I'll just do that again. So again, just get this one and then make sure it's the wall underneath, not, yep, that's it. That's better. Okay, so that's all ready for the windows. Okay, so you can see it's really starting to come together with the form of the building there. And you can easily then model in all of that detail and get it right much more easily than if you just try and do it all too quickly and don't get these setouts right. Mine's still not perfect, but it's definitely very close. So I'll maybe just go back and point out some of the other major elements to think about at this stage. Okay, so we've begun the set out for the openings, but then taking it a bit further with the other elements, you have things like columns that will extend basically through most of the building. So let's go up to say level 4, where you can see those columns still are there. Level 5 is where you have that new addition that I don't think you actually need to show. So we'll take them to the top of level 4, which is basically the base of level 5. So let's just roughly measure one of these columns. So let's say they're 250 square. Right, so for these, best to use structural columns. Make sure it's on vertical, go to load family, then go to structural columns, concrete, and concrete rectangular column. Concrete square column would be okay as well actually. In fact I will use concrete square column. And well, we have a 300 by 300 column, which is very close to what we want actually. But no, we'll go and make a new one. So we go edit type, duplicate 250 by 250 millimeters, and then just change this dimension there to 250. Now, really important when you use structural columns that you change the option there that will be set to depth to height. And then I'm going to change that height to level 5. And now, ordinarily you could use at grids, but here I want to make sure the angle is right. So I'm going to just place one initially. I think it's going to be worth checking. Yep, it is. It's actually not too bad. So I can just keep going and placing on the intersections there. At grids I think isn't necessary here. It's not going to save you much time. So I'm just going to click onto each intersection and make sure they do follow the angle of the angled grid, not the vertical grid. Again, I wouldn't trust this drawing. Some of them are shown at different angles, so we'll see what makes sense there, but that can always be changed. Okay, so then some other elements to think about. You have the core that has that lift that would be running all the way through, I'd say, and you could look at doing that essentially with walls that continue around the fire stair as well. Okay, so using the wall tool here, actually, so I haven't measured that wall. 300. Okay, so it doesn't really matter here whether you use finish face exterior or interior with interior walls, but it doesn't hurt if you do have an idea which one is interior. I would say the lift shaft would be the interior, and so I'm going to make that as the interior face. Okay, so then just tracing over these lines from the plan, just making sure I don't snap to that reference plane. Okay, notice I'm drawing anti-clockwise here. I can just use space to flip the wall onto the side I want. So again, if the walls don't seem to be exactly the right thickness, I wouldn't be too worried here, because again, our base drawing is probably not perfectly accurate anyway. So we might see if we play around with some of these afterwards as well. Okay, so just here, going to start on one side, space if I need to flip that. Okay, so you might have seen I actually left the height there on level 1. I'm just going to check these using control. So we can make those go to level 5 for now. And then this wall, for example, might work better as a even a 510 wall, I think there. No, that's a bit too much, so maybe the next one down we've got 360. Yeah, close enough. Okay, so then what about this one here? I think that needs to be a thicker wall as well. And this one. Okay, so back to drawing walls again. And so try to keep interior faces connected to interior faces and exterior faces connected to exterior faces. So remember, this was an interior face. So you can always tell if you select a wall. You can see there are the grips, and it's set to finish face exterior. So that's the exterior face, the bottom is the interior face. So back to drawing the wall. And I'm going to choose a thinner wall. So this time I'll set the location line to finish face interior. Going along there. And then coming back up. Don't worry, I'm going to change that thickness. So this wall here, we'll try 300. That's not enough. That can be 360. Yep, now broken my own wall because that's an interior face and this is a interior face here, and they're going to be joined. It's not, you don't have to always connect them. It just helps with the way the finishes show, but it's actually not a problem if they connect differently. So yeah, just join those together using trim, and then this wall looks like it's yet another thickness. In fact, I'm going to say that I think the drawing's wrong, so I'm just going to make that 300. That's fine. Okay, so they should come through on all the levels, and if we go to the 3D view, we should see now that's extending through the building. So we've got a large part of the interior set out there as well. Okay, so you can just continue that way. So do the same setup on the facade wall over here. And then before going too far with the more detailed elements, windows and doors, and also other interior walls, I would definitely think about putting in some floors and maybe even a roof and possibly some ceilings as well. So that's what I'll look at in the next video.